Welcome, Spartans, to Mission Debrief. We're playing every mission of the Halo Mainline video game series in chronological order, discussing our experiences and sprinkling in a little lore along the way. If you'd like to play along or have thoughts that you'd like to be read on the show, email us at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. We'll be talking about the Exodus mission from Halo Reach on the next episode. This episode, we're debriefing the long, ever so long Night of Solace mission from Halo Reach. Did I mention it's long?
Yay! Best mission.
I'm Colin Perkins alongside David Arnold.
Hello, everybody.
And Aaron Campbell.
Hi, guys.
Aaron has joined us to gush some man love about George into the microphone. So last mission, we did Tip of the Spear. We drove around in some vehicles and disabled some stuff. We also shot some stuff while airborne in a Falcon. And we also got to meet up with our friend George at some point. So that pretty much sums up what we did, right?
Were you murdered by Cat at some point?
I was not. I was murdered in an earlier mission by Cat. Literally, she drove over me.
Yeah. Cat's the most awful person.
Mm-hmm.
Just the worst.
You know,
makes me not feel too sympathetic for her, but you know.
She likes to get behind the wheel. You know what? More power to her. All right.
I just never let her. I drive.
In this mission, all right, we're 2 days after the previous mission, Tip of the Spear, after the Noble team discovers the Covenant supercarrier. The cutscene that you see right away, though, seems like it's kind of right after that mission, and then it seems like there's a cut, though. So it's like let's regroup. Kat talks about her plan, and then it feels like we come back 2 days later. So
can we take 1 minute to talk about Cat's drawing in the dirt with the knife?
Sure.
I want to know what that drawing looked like. It was the most detailed battle plan drawn in sand.
I saw on a vid doc before with Bungie, and they were like, there's nothing. Like, they don't even know what it is. All it says in the script is Cat draws, and that's it. There's actually nothing. They don't have an idea of what she was actually drawing.
It makes me really sad, although I kind of think now that's prime for someone needs to cut that and then have like a Microsoft Paint drawn out.
Yes.
I suddenly feel a joke coming on here, so I might have to make that later.
I think
I don't really know what she could draw that would describe plan any better than she did by just saying the plan. So, I don't know. Seems weird.
Yeah, that's the thing. But anyway, sorry, I just wanted to say that there in case anyone else sat and watched that cutscene the first time thinking,
Well, I feel like you also have to watch that cutscene more than once to get everything that's going on. You watch it and you're like, wait a minute, they're doing what? So anyway, so there's the plan, which we'll talk about, and then they have to go essentially ask for Colonel Holland to say, yeah, that's a good plan. And then what they do essentially is then they go to a Sabre launch facility, hop a ride into orbit, and acquire a military-grade slip space drive to take out the Long Night of Solace supercarrier. Aaron, do you want to talk about slip space real quick here? Do you have a good, I don't know, off the top of your head explanation of slip space?
Okay, let's see. Slip space is, as my understanding of it, slip space is another dimension, and you can travel to places faster than you can in our dimension, and the only way to get into slip space is to use a slip space drive to punch a hole from our reality to slip space, and then you can go places.
That sounds legit.
Is my understanding of it. I think that's about the height of it, and then if I remember back in like the Fall of Reach, they describe it as the Covenant can slice their way into slip space with the equivalent of like a scalpel, whereas humanity's slip space drives kind of punch a hole into it.
Yeah.
We're kind of rough and ready like that.
Just based off like the technology that they have. Right.
Yeah.
That's a good way to explain it. So it's not fast, it's not light speed. It's a whole different thing. It's like crawling into space-time continuum and then coming out somewhere else.
It's kind of bypassing it, and it's all
like
a
a
bit
wormhole.
Weird because, and there's also like weird time travel stuff because they sometimes talk about how ships can arrive places like sooner than they should and weird times, and they don't always arrive where they're supposed to.
Yeah, they also make a point that like the engine itself doesn't actually propel the ship or make any kind of movement. It literally just opens the envelope, and then the actual impulse drives are the ones that actually control the ship.
But you can you can spend time in slip space. Like to get to that other destination, it will take
Oh yeah,
a
it's
while.
not instantaneous.
Right.
It is like there is time. That's why people still use like cryo bays and cryo tubes and stuff like that to kind of freeze themselves during slip space travel.
So they have this military grade slip space drive, where they're trying to get it. So once they're in orbit, we have some space battle good times, which will be fun to talk about. And then we go to the UNSC space station where we actually get this slip space drive. Noble 6 and George then take the drive to a Covenant Corvette so that they can use it. They can use its refueling track, which part was kind of confusing to me. But anyway, so essentially the Corvette's going to link up with the supercarrier at some point. So that's how they're going to transport the slip space drive to the supercarrier and essentially just blow a giant slip space drive hole into the middle of the supercarrier, right?
Yeah,
well, much.
I think, as I understand it, they're just going to slip space half of the ship away without the other half.
Sure. Yeah.
I think,
but that's how they describe the accident. But they're not actually cutting it in half. They're just because when it detonates, it detonates in the middle and it actually splits it. So but
when it goes away, it the middle bit disappears. If you watch the explosion at the end, the middle bit doesn't explode. The middle bit
actually travels to wherever it goes. And then
wherever it goes, which will lead to my 15-minute rant later this episode that we're going to have. But I'll get to that.
Oh, yeah, that ties in, huh? Interesting. So the date of the game is August 14th, 2552. So this is 2 days after, as I mentioned. So they got to regroup and actually kind of put everything into place. So it feels like the pace of the game, and I guess in a Halo time standpoint, is starting to pick up a little bit. No more long breaks like we had previous missions. One thing to note is I love the name of this Operation Uppercut. I think it's awesome. I wonder if Kat came up with that.
Totally.
It's one of the most badass names I think that you could come up with a mission.
And it kind of accurately describes because they go in underneath the supercarrier and uppercut it, I guess.
Yeah. That's probably Joseph Staten's brilliance right there. So what do we think about this mission?
Yeah,
should we jump into space flying ship battles right away? I think we should do that.
God,
right?
I love this mission so much.
Yeah, I want to talk about I like it, but I want to talk about the start landing on the beach bit.
Okay, let's do that.
I enjoy it. I think it's quite fun that you drop on this quiet part of the beach, you come around some rocks, and then this real up-tempo, loud guitar-y music kicks in, and then the elites drop down in their pods and jump out to get you.
Is that the first time that we saw an actual pod landing in front of us with an elite?
No, they're in
out?
Halo 2 as well.
No. I'm saying if we're playing in chronological order, we haven't seen this yet, right?
Yeah, that would be their first. That would be their first drop pod.
I think it was the first drop pod that we've seen. Maybe it's popped up at some point, in the distance in one of the missions so far, but I don't remember it. But this one, it's clearly okay, he just falls, within 30 yards of you, and then climbs out of that thing, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and then you've got to just fight your way up, and it gets kind of tough towards the end because you get up to that last part of the hill, and there's 5 or 6 jackals and elites all clustered around it.
Did you notice when you turn around? Did you notice when you turn around? So you kind of get to the Sabre facility. If you turn around, there's actually more dropships coming, Covenant dropships.
Oh,
if
you stay there, it's infinite. They'll infinitely.
Is that right?
Yeah, they'll infinitely drop enemies in there, and you can just stay there and hold the facility as long as you want.
It's just it must be the firefight engine sort of working away, I assume.
Kind of, yeah. I think they did it on purpose. Oh, I'm sure they did it on purpose, but just if you want to, you can just stay there and just fight waves of enemies.
That's
which
cool.
I thought was kind of cool.
I feel you can also just almost speed run through. You can just hustle through there.
Oh,
if you want to. And just get to the facility.
Oh yeah,
hustle through.
There's quite a few like that. You can hustle through the facility. I think there's only one elite you face on the inside the whole time. So you can get straight to the takeoff ramp and just bolt.
Yeah. Did you guys
with George if you want to?
Did you guys take out the Wraith when you're going to the facility? I always grab a trooper with a rocket launcher. I always grab his and then go and take out the Wraith. It's on a landing pad on the other side, but it does actually shoot
through the hole in the wall.
Yeah, through the hole in the wall. I always try and kill it.
I think when I played it, because I was only doing it in normal, the Marines blew it up themselves.
Oh, nice.
Because I heard someone say there's a Wraith on the pad, and I looked out the window in time to see an explosion.
Oh, cool.
But I think normally I just keep on running.
I like to try and kill it.
I kept running. But that's part I was, I guess, confused about. It's, I guess Halo missions you can run through a lot of stuff, but typically, like a situation like that, it almost felt like there should be some gates, whereas like the facility door didn't open or wasn't available until you cleared out a certain amount of things. And then likewise with when you're in the facility. But no, you can just kind of sprint right through and get on that Sabre.
Yeah. I don't know, when you're doing it, I kind of have the vibe that the facility's not going to be there for much longer, because like Carter and Kat, I think, say on the radio to George, like, we're waiting for the Falcon, it's going to come and take us away. It doesn't sound like they're planning on holding the base for any length of time. It's just long enough to get you guys in the air, and then fuck this, we're out.
Yeah.
Like, they all just go then.
I think there's no need. I mean, this is a supposedly super secret facility for the Sabre, so I mean, once the Sabres are launched, probably don't need it anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's just
that's the other thing. Here's something I was wondering. Kat mentions that like the government have denied the existence of this program 3 times in a row. What seemed overly top secret about the Sabres?
I was thinking that too.
I
don't know if
seemed
any particular reason for them to be top secret. I guess maybe just a way of
They're a newer ship, aren't they? I mean, again, to the franchise, not timeline wise, but we haven't seen that yet, right?
I think they would be.
No, and I don't think we ever really see anything like it again. Like, there's long swords and broadswords and stuff, but like these smaller sort of craft. Mm-hmm. And I also thought it was really sort of weird that it didn't sit quite right to me that they use rockets to take off, like an old-fashioned rocket. They don't fly up into the sky. I'm kind of used to pelicans and everything else. Like, they take off and they swoop off up into orbit.
Well, that makes they're
just, like,
specifically
blast.
for orbital defense. That's what they say when they're reconfigured. So I guess, they don't have crazy engines. They're a small fighter. I guess that's how you would get them up to space, I suppose.
I suppose it was something I thought was a little bit weird. The idea
it was a
that
cool
they
sequence.
still use rockets. It is nice to watch, like especially all those nice shots at the end where like the boosters blow off, and then as they tumble back down to Earth, the camera spins around.
Yeah, the camera stays on them. It's pretty cool.
This mission, I guess most of the missions in Reach, it felt like Bungie was like, let's just do something cool.
Yeah,
and make it look cool, and then they go back after the fact and it's like, all right, let's figure out how this would actually work with the lore. And that's probably where they ran into some problems with the book and all that sort of thing. But it looks great. And,
it looks awesome.
But when you actually sit down and think about it, you're like, really? That's how it works?
I remember seeing the sequence in the trailer. Do you know when they teased Halo Reach, and it was just a quick shot of the Sabre in space shooting, and everybody lost their minds, going, oh my god, we get to fly a spaceship. And it was so
well,
cool.
and I wonder too, because they were working on Destiny at this point, if they were trying to fit that space battle stuff into Destiny, and this was
I remember saying that and having conversations with people about it at the time, being like, this is totally a trial run, you'd think, for Destiny, because you think all those ships kind of look like Sabres, and you'd imagine.
That's the thing that got me. As soon as I was flying the Sabre there again, my first thought was, this just looks so like the little ship I had in Destiny, although you couldn't really fly the little ship in Destiny, but although, like, I think you can see an awful lot of, like, where Destiny was coming from in Reach. Like, you have those armor abilities, and they're not that far removed from magic.
No.
Like,
you got bubble shields
you
and
can see
whatnot.
where they looked at these, and you went, okay, we're, like, 2 steps away here, and you have the customizable armor that's in all your cutscenes.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah.
Seeing as I haven't been on any episode before now, I just have to say again, I really do love how brilliant it is to just have your own Spartan.
Yes. Yep.
Just in all those videos.
It's kind of jarring right away. I guess if you're coming from being used to playing as Master Chief, you're like, whoa, that's the guy that I play with. That's awesome.
Yeah, I kind of hope it would be a feature again someday. Although I don't know, like, I think all the cutscenes in this are done in engine, which is, I think, how they do it. They're not, like, pre-rendered. I don't think you could have the beautiful cutscenes that we have now and have them be customizable.
No. Well,
it would look a little weird.
I'm okay
but anyway,
with the way they run.
While we were talking about beautiful, the background art when you're in space, all those, like, space vistas, the planet.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I guess I don't know if you could call it a skybox, but the space box is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's the backdrop of actually the fighting.
Right.
It's really cool.
You'll get lost, flying around. The space battles, it's not that hard, but you kind of do get lost with everything. You have free 360 movement now, and then every once in a while you get lost, and you'll be looking at a plane and like, where am I now? Oh, okay, you gotta spin back and find the space station to kind of bring yourself back.
I loved just how the space battle took place, where it was like, waves of enemies, but it was tiered in terms of like you had the space banshees, and then you had the seraphs, which I think is the first time we'd seen them, and then you had like the phantoms that come in. I really enjoyed just mowing down banshees with your cannon, and then like switching to like the rockets and stuff like that for the seraphs and the phantoms.
They do a good job of throughout this whole game, they do a good job of kind of teaching you how to play before you really need to play. And they do it once again here. It's like the banshees, the seraphs, then a mix of banshees and seraphs, and then the phantoms come.
Yeah. And then the cool...
And then you're like...
Sorry, go on.
Go.
I was going to say, like,
David.
the cool sequence then when you're taking out the carrier, you're trying to, like, you have it, like, jammed or whatever, and you're trying to disable it. I really loved that, and I loved... I don't know if you guys ever did it, but, like, that carrier is dropping pods. You can fly underneath and shoot those pods and kill them, and you get, like, accolades and stuff like that. You get, like,
never knew that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. It's kind of tough to do it, but I want to say there was a challenge at one stage, and that's why I figured out that you could. But
I always felt under pressure with that level, because like you've got to go quick to take out the engines, then you've got to take out that final wave of like returning fighters before they escape. And I think that's a mission fail, isn't it? You can actually fail if you don't shoot them all in time.
I was thinking that today. I didn't realize that. Maybe you can.
Because I did it, I think because I did it in normal, I didn't have an issue. But I want to say when I did that in Legendary, I spent a lot of time trying to take out those last few ships and failing at it.
That's how they frame it up, so that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of the teammate chatter? Did you notice that at all? Like the other fighter ships, they were chatting here and there. It was there, but it was just kind of blah.
It's a bit meh. I turned on I would have been your daddy's skull, so like I got a couple of kind of choice quotes, things like, "Oh, you're in space, so they can't hear you scream," kind of stuff. Like, they drop like Space Panther from
Gotcha.
movies and franchises and stuff. It's typical.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty meh. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, check out 6 Sabre skills." It's like, oh, shut up. It's cringy.
Yeah. Also, it's a little impressive how long the Savannah held up in that firefight.
Yeah, it really got mangled, didn't it?
I felt like the space stations and there's other ships around you too. Like you're just blasting away, so there would have been a lot of collateral damage going on in that fight. So then we essentially get to the space station. We clear out everybody. Then we get to the space station. We load in our slipspace drive into the Pelican, which is cool to see the Pelican in space because it does both. And then we go and land that bad boy on that Corvette. What do you guys think about that sequence?
Awesome. Also, one thing to know, Chris, I wanted us to mention, you can get into the Pelican's turret, and when it's in the bay docked and shoot it and stuff, but you can't really see anything. It's quite difficult to actually see what you're doing, but it's just a fun little glitch.
Is that at the beginning of the... Is that where you land there?
You can do it at the start and at the end. You can just crouch down and get into the turret. It's kind of weird. There's no prompt or anything like that. It doesn't tell you can, but you can. So just like getting into a vehicle. And...
So we have to fight our way, essentially. We have to get to the Corvette, and we have to take out some of the engines so that so that we can land.
You were, I think you were taking out... Oh, sorry, I was going to say, I think you had to take them out. What was it? You had to slow it down before it got too close to the supercarrier.
Slow down the engine.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think the supercarrier was kind of not paying attention, that they missed that entire firefight going off, like, in the distance.
Definitely. Like, you can see it in the distance, so yeah, I guess they weren't really paying attention. But it's also fun to kind of... I think the sequence where you land and it's in like low G and stuff like that is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And you kind of invade
the sound,
the ship, which
goes all muffled,
super
which is
obvious. Great. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And the grunts are really tough. Like they have armor, shields, and armor. So
yeah,
you gotta hit them quite a few more times.
They're all kind of tough. That bay that the hangar's in, I think because of firefight, I've just spent far too much time in that space because I got into it and immediately felt... It happens a couple of times with Reach where you get into a space and then you're sort of going like, oh god, I spent hours in Firefight here trying to get credits and daily challenges and weekly challenges. It's quite an enjoyable level. Like, if you ever play a Firefight, I like that one. You can sort of keep moving around the edge of the room and just take them out door by door.
Yeah, I don't think I know Regis Firefight very well. I think I
didn't play much of it. I played it kind of after the fact, so. And then we essentially take out enough of the Covenant so that the gravity comes back, and then we're kind of fighting through to the what is it, the bridge. We gotta go hit a button, right?
Yeah, you've got to go hit the button on the bridge. I like, by the way, when we go and do this little fight, I like that the Colonel tells George to stay in mind the slip space drive, and he turns around to Six and he's just like, you hear that? I'm going to be all on my own, so why don't you hurry up back quick? And I think like that's the closest to sort of that. It's the closest to sounding worried you hear out of any Spartan. It's like, yeah, I'm going to be facing a shipload of Covenant on my own, so don't leave me too long.
Do we want to pause and just talk about George here in general? Like, there's a lot of character development, George, in this mission in general.
I think there's a lot of character development in George in general. I think like he's more interesting than most of Noble Team. Because I don't...
Well, like, Carter gets some and Kat gets some.
Yeah,
June doesn't get a ton, at least to this point.
No, and Emil doesn't really get a lot either.
He doesn't get any.
Like, I kind of feel like they're the two sort of unknowns, and I don't personally find Kat very
George
lovable.
is the most likable, I think.
I think he is.
Yeah.
And it also helps that he's just the big old Spartan-III.
Yeah.
So that...
He's walking around with his own turret. He's awesome.
Yes, he's just a giant walking tank. So, I like him. He's always sort of, like, chill, and no matter what's going on, it's kind of cool. Because he has a bit more at the end of this, after this fight. Because, like, I fought my way through to the bridge. On normal, I managed to make it to the bridge to the console and only lose one Marine. But I remember doing it on Heroic and Legendary, and just, like, everyone dies instantly.
Yeah. The bridge sequence is quite tough on Legendary.
Even before that, getting through that room where the elites are like on the turrets out the window and the savannah blows up, like that. I remember that being quite tough.
Yeah, I think I made it. I saw him playing on Heroic, and I made it. There was one or two. There might have been two Marines there, but I'm sure I died, a couple times along the way. So maybe it was just that run. Ended up having a couple Marines along with me. But then that bridge. There's the it's like a gold elite. It's like a bronze gold elite that's got the concussion rifle, and he is no joke.
Yeah, I think I put about 15 rounds of my concussion rifle into him just because he kept moving about. And then you've got...
And there's also a bunch of stealthed dudes in there
you get
as well.
the camouflage guys as well, because I'd forgot about them, and then I saw a console shimmer and went, oh shit, we're not done.
Yeah. Did you guys... I always spent a lot of time looking at the planet map. They have like a... more or less a real-time, looks like a battle map of Reach spinning in that room. It's pretty cool. I was trying to stare at it and trying to figure out what's going on in Reach.
Yeah, I didn't look at that at all. There was a couple of holograms in the
like
ship.
That
there's another one somewhere.
As holograms go in Halo, it's nice that it's like real life sort of coloured, and there's green on it and there's blue on it. It's not the usual sort of shimmery blue, no real texture to it that you get.
Humans use.
Yeah, because I kind of wish like the maps in the Halo 3 and like the control room for the Halos, I wish they'd look like that, because they're that more sort of an outline map that's kind of just one colour. So I like that. Like I spent a minute or two looking at it, but then I had to go back and help George.
When you got to the bridge, did you know? I mean, for me, I was able to, because it took me a couple tries, so it always start me at the beginning. I was able to go up to an elite and assassinate him. Did you guys try that?
Oh yeah, I tried that several times. Especially the ones where like they are when they're on the turrets shooting the savannah. I always try and assassinate one of them.
Okay,
and if
so
I can,
you can.
And I definitely done it the first couple of times. When I go to the control room, I try and sprint and grab one elite essentially and see if I can take him out.
That's a little bit of a disconnect for me, because essentially, like, they should know you're boarded. By at this point. Because you're, they should see everything that's going on. But
anyway, they do
cool.
say that you've jammed their communications, but you kind of think when you storm a ship, they're gonna know that this ship is.
Well, they'll just be on
somebody
the ready,
has to,
right?
Yeah.
Somebody facing the doors.
I kind of assumed it's just there's some people, and I just go like, these elites must be like, okay, someone else can deal with the borders. I've got to shoot the humans outside. Like I
guess.
they just know their back's up against the wall, but it's a fun level. I enjoy that.
So we push the button that we need to push, and then we head back to help out George. So you kind of fight your way back kind of through the same corridors that you went to. You find him, and then the music gets all weird. It's like a funky techno thing that's going on. And I don't, I like electronic music, but it's jarring. It's very different from the rest of the.
Yeah, there's a couple of times when reach like on the beach at the start, you get that music that's just
I
kind of
noticed it more on
different
the
to
beach,
everything
yeah.
else. But like, there's a couple of times where the tone changes a bit, and then you've got something different to do. And then like that whole fight in that hangar bay is very close to, like I said, I played a lot of Firefight to get commendations and stuff, and that's basically your firefight that's probably like 1 or 2 waves of Firefight, just waiting to see which door lights up and which door they're coming out of and who's coming next. But like, it's a fun fight, and there's a ton of weapons.
Also, there's an engineer in there as well, which is a fun thing to know. I think it's the only one
there
in the
was?
game.
Oh, I didn't see that.
There's an engineer in that room. You can see him. He gives like shield buffs to some of the troops on the ground.
Oh, he must have gotten taken out pretty quickly for me because I didn't notice that at all. That's cool.
You probably don't have to kill him. I'm not sure, but I always do just to remove the shields.
Yeah, it would have been.
Maybe I did. Does he float up like to the top?
Yeah,
I think he goes up near the ceiling, so they don't really get shielded off them unless they're up, on the platforms. Okay. But because I was in normal, I just ran around and kept punching people in the face. Like, it wasn't too much of a challenge.
Of course you did.
I think I did notice something floating up to the top, and I didn't know. Maybe that was on an earlier part of the mission. Anyway, these white elites are jerks. There's a lot of them that come flooding out, and they're not easy, and they have concussion rifles and
plasma launcher. I think one of them has.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I mean, that does feel good. I guess it's a tough fight. Like you're in the enemy's territory essentially. You're on their ship, and they do a good job of defending it. So it feels like it's not a cakewalk.
No, although I was glad I took the bubble shield before we left, because I think that makes a big difference. Just that you can like.
Yeah, there is a point where you can switch though. I think if you go up higher, you can switch.
I think you can switch a couple of times because it's
like a hologram.
Yeah, I switched mine out before I got in the Sabre.
Yeah, there's loads
in the base, and then I noticed there were more when you got there. Because when you get back into that room, they've set out like equipment boxes, so there's health, and I think there's rockets in that along the back wall.
There is, yeah. There's like big heavy equipment there.
So like
it's funny. I don't use my power that much. I think I'm just used to playing Halo without it. So and I didn't really play much. I didn't play any Reach when it came out. It came a couple years later when I was just kind of trying to catch up. So I don't spend much time with.
I would have used the bubble
ability.
shield a lot because it was just convenient, because you can only take so many hits to your health before it permanently drops a notch. So it was just like a quick breather. You could just drop the bubble shield, and usually the elites wouldn't come in after you, so you had a minute. You could recover your shields and then jump back out again and keep at it. I found that usually was the most helpful, although in Legendary I remember the hologram being quite useful. Because as long as
I never really used that.
I found out as long as you were behind a rock and an elite couldn't see you activate it, they would run after the hologram. But if an elite saw you, then they were smart enough to know that you were still you, and they wouldn't follow the hologram. So like it's
I use it on Heroic a little bit.
Yeah, it's nice little touches like that. Although I do, playing back through it now, I do miss having sprint. I think Halo 5 spoiled me. Having sprint not being armor abilities quite nice, because I was looking at it going, okay, it's a smaller level, I can sacrifice sprint, but if I had sprint, I could clear some of these sections so much quicker.
So I joked at the beginning that this is a long mission. It is a long mission, though, isn't it? It felt long, at least playing through for me. There's so many different stages of it.
I think
so many different parts to it,
And I think the thing is, because they don't really reuse anything, like, granted, you run up and down the ship to get to the bridge, but it's not like a sword base or that, where you're basically going in the big loop and you're using all the same areas over and over.
Yeah.
Like, they're all different. You use that beach area once and never again, and you do the space fight once and never again, and then you use the ship. And this
was probably like a demo mission for them. Like an E3 demo mission. Probably. Maybe that's confirmed already, but it feels like it's like, here's a ton of variety in this one one mission for you to
Yeah,
experience.
I was always a little sad that they never got the space flight worked into the firefight mode. They talked about how it might have been a possibility at one stage that one of the firefight levels would have been the space flight, but they said it just didn't work out. I can't remember what reason they gave, but they just couldn't quite get it to go. But like 4-player space flight firefight would have been quite fun. It's like it is fun. The only thing about it is instinctively I went to use the left stick on my controller to strafe the fighter, and then you find out it doesn't, and it's a little weird.
It rolls.
Yeah, it does roll, but like it doesn't. I pulled on the stick and pulled left, and I expected the fighter to sort of like strafe left, kind of like a Banshee, but it didn't really do any of that.
No, it controls kind of uniquely.
Yeah,
but it's just so great. Anyway, do you want to get into the end of this mission?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, do we want to talk about impressions now, or do we want to go into crazy theory for Aaron?
Okay. Well, do we want to talk about the final cutscene, and then we can do impressions, and then I'll go off on my rant?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Well, Aaron, why don't you talk about the final cutscene?
Okay, so I like the last cutscene because, like we said, it gives George a lot of character, because the cutscene starts and George is leaning over the slipspace drive and he sort of hits the side of it, and then he's talking to himself and he's just like, so that's how it's going to be. And you're like, what's George talking about? And then he turns around to Six and he pulls his helmet off and his dog tags, and you're like, oh no. And then he explains to Six that the timer's broken, so they have to set the drive off manually. And I think he says that the Pelican's damaged as well, so the only way out is a parachute, which, by the way, they foreshadow in the first cutscene when he lands on the ship. It pulls up behind, before you go to the bridge, the camera pulls behind Six, and it says like orbital re-entry on his back. He has like a space parachute.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's just clamped on his armor.
I don't know if it's a parachute or if it's kind of like it's a re-entry. It's got a fancy name. It's like a re-entry, orbital re-entry. It's like orbital re-entry,
something like that. But if you're not paying attention, then you don't put two and two together. So George gives Six his dog tags, tells him, Reach has been good to me, I'm going to be good to Reach, and then picks Six up off the ground with one arm. Because he kind of... Six gives him like the cool sort of like fist handshake thing, and then George just picks him up by the chest plate and carries him over to the force field, and then he's like...
Which, like, so that those things weigh what? A ton?
Spartans are like half a ton apiece. I think George is much, much heavier.
Sure.
Like I think Chief's like half a ton of Spartan and armor, and like it's clearly no challenge, because like Six seems to be a reasonably, like, he's not a small Spartan-III by any stretch, and George just scoops him up no problem and then throws him out the airlock.
Just chucks him out
into space, and then Six sort of just like sits there with his arms and just watches, because you see the little flash of the slipspace drive, and then it
you have to manually trigger it.
Yeah, it zooms out to a satellite, and you see the middle section of the carrier just disappear.
Yeah, that was cool. That was very cool to see.
Yeah, so it disappears, and then the other two halves sort of fall down into the atmosphere. And I think that's the end of the cutscene then. That's just it.
The cutscene just kind of rolls right into the next Exodus.
Yeah, it does, because I was trying to think, what point does that cutscene stop? I think actually it stops with the satellite that's been watching the carrier the whole time is taken out by the slipspace jump.
Yeah,
I think that's the very end of that cutscene before it rolls into Exodus. So, like, it's a nice.
But doesn't it immediately show?
No,
that like all the ships come in. There's that.
Oh yes, it does. That's the very.
Doesn't it?
No, that's the very end of this.
The
cutscene,
very end.
Yes, you can hear Dot saying slipspace. What does she call
detected,
it? Like slipspace incident
detected.
or slipspace encroachment.
Rupture.
And then she keeps saying it over and over and over, and you hear this like Marines in the background going like, "There's something there. I think I see something." Then they're going like, "Oh no, they're dropping in below the defense line," and then you hear them scream, and they've obviously been taken out.
So it's essentially like one of the largest armadas ever.
Yeah, I think that's the last thing someone says is this the entire Covenant fleet? And then you realize.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was because of the slipspace drive that you set up, but it seems to be a separate event, right?
Yeah, that's just this is
I
the
think
main Covenant fleet
timing.
has landed, and that's it.
Yeah,
and then you suddenly realize that poor George sacrificed himself for essentially nothing.
Right, exactly.
Well, one Spartan took out a supercarrier, so that's not nothing. But yeah, I guess in terms of like
there's like a half dozen supercarriers
what happens next?
jump into the next cutscene before everything happens. So, do we want to talk about?
It really does kick you when you're down.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about our thoughts?
All right. So
before?
let's. So that's the mission. So let's talk about just quick around the table, just real quick. Our thoughts, and then we'll go to. Actually, let's go to the community thoughts now. Let's do that real quick. So, David, there was just you can summarize Matt's long post again, and then Aaron, if you can bring up Twitter quick. There's a couple comments on Twitter.
You can do that while I talk.
Yeah.
So there is Matt pretty much breaks down the mission. Blah blah blah. He loves it. The same as me. It's one of his favorite missions in the FPS games. The lore standby is pretty solid. It's got the story's awesome. Like, do you know what I mean? The premise, the mission, the plan. It's all cool. It is pretty challenging in the space missions when on harder difficulties. But it is, I think, a well balanced sequence. He enjoys it a lot too. He talked about the 0G section as well. It's pretty cool as it's a short segment, but it does introduce a kind of interesting mechanic of just having 0G. The conversations are pretty cool in terms of when they're hatching the plan together. You can see the team dynamics quite shown clearly. You know, this team is history. They've worked together extensively in the past. Noble Six is just the odd one out, really, and it's kind of pretty cool in terms of like how they put them puts the plan together. And Matt pretty much loves it. Overall, mission is almost flawless, except for a serious issue of useless friendly AI. I agree. And the best mission in Halo Reach, I think so too. I love this mission so much.
So this just in. Wait a minute, is that it? Because that's all.
Oh, there is a lot, but there's more coming.
There's more, Matt. We love you, Matt, but holy cow,
Matt, crazy. So I'm not going into further than that. So Nick just wrote it.
Yeah, this just in.
Oh my God,
Nick Cepeda.
I think the guys are just taking the piss out of each other now. It's crazy ass essays making me read. So Nick wrote in, and he also loves it. He did it with Cloud and Thunderstorm Skulls.
Oh dang.
Oh yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, everyone loves this mission. It's universally loved.
He says it's damn near perfect, is what he says.
Damn
which I
near
think
perfect,
is
exactly.
Pretty cool. I mean, it's hard to argue, right? I mean, it's hard to argue that it's not. I mean, this is one of the great Halo missions.
Yeah, and it also kind of introduces some of like background for Noble Six in terms of like who he was. He was a Sabre pilot. We kind of learn from this, so that's kind of interesting. From his kind of background, and obviously a useful skill.
Yeah,
obviously comes in very handy.
And it also shows that Kat knows far too much. Because at the start of that like cutscene, Kat's like, well, I'm just a humble ground soldier and I wouldn't know all these things, but if I did happen to know about the top secret program that he was in, and you're just like, how does Kat know all this?
You know, it sets it up pretty cool.
What's Twitter say, Aaron?
Sorry?
What's Twitter say?
Oh, Twitter, right, we got Twitter. So first up, we've got Bad at Halo Show, and I don't like them anymore. Because they said, at the end of the mission, George dies, and he is dead. Not Marvel dead, actual dead. D-E-A-D. So,
Krista even had a conversation with Jeff about it when she met him. He's definitely dead.
No, he's not. No one's dead unless they write their corpse in a book. They can bring them back. Except maybe for Johnson. I think Johnson's definitely dead.
Yeah, I think he's dead.
Although, you know, when Flood Johnson eventually reappears or something weird happens or something, I don't know. No, we can't.
Oh, wait a minute, we're not supposed to be spoiling that just in case people are playing along. So
yes, very good.
What we said.
Yes, forget all about that. Okay, let's see. What have we got up next? Unicraken we got here. The Sabre was fun to fly. True space battles. Cut audio found in the disc shows that the Savannah used her Mac on the Corvette, which is why she doesn't have shields when you take out its engines. So that's cool, because I wondered why you were able to shoot the shields out.
That's cool.
Yeah. So they've got that, and then he also said they're not a fan of the CSO, but it's still fun and memorable mission. So I'd say that's pretty true. Chris Niles says it's his favourite flying mission, which I'd say it probably is. The only other flying mission is there's one eventually in a
Halo
later
4.
Mainline. Yep, I was going to say Halo 4. That I'd say that maybe won out a little bit, but Let's see, we've also got Saul here, has a little bit more to say. What we got? He says he loves the mission, true starfighter mission, several waves of varied enemies, which, like we said earlier, the destruction of the UNSC vessels while you're helpless on the inside, and that you start out with Noble Team at your side and destroy everyone on the ground, and then by the end of it you're on your own, and that George sacrifices himself.
That's interesting, actually, to think about. Like, you're going in as a team, and then by the end it's just you.
And then it's pretty much just you after that for a while, until you like scramble to meet your friends again. But it's fun. I enjoy it as a mission.
Yeah. It's hard to argue that it's not one of the best missions in Halo. But we're on the first show, so we'll find out. Well, now we kind of have a point of comparison, actually playing through every mission and talking about them all. But this is probably my favorite to date so far.
Yeah. This mission's always stood out in my mind in terms of the Halo series as being one of my favorite missions. I think it's just so well put together. It's just so cool. I love it. Just seeing the plan executed, and just go through the process. And then at the very end of it, just kicking the balls of it was worthless.
Yeah.
It was just, I think it just totally epitomizes like Reach. Do you know what I mean? Just the tone of the game as a whole. That like everything you're doing, you're fighting a losing battle. Do you know what I mean? That's just what Halo has been like up until, I suppose, Halo 4. But you know what I mean? Fighting the Covenant was always like a losing battle.
Right.
And this is kind of one of the biggest battles, I guess. Battle for Reach. And it's just such a cool mission. I will say, 2 kind of points of trivia I just wanted to point out. This mission has the most cutscenes in any Halo mission in the whole series.
That's why it feels longer. That's why it feels longer.
Especially that, like,
of which there is 7.
Yeah, and that rocket takeoff in the middle is quite a long cutscene. Like,
segment. Yeah.
They really take their time with it, which I kind of appreciate. Like, it's not rushed and it doesn't just cut you in space. It shows you the whole transition.
Which is pretty cool. It is possible to hijack a Seraph somehow without the use of mods, and during the beach sequence via a glitch. So that's kind of cool. I've never seen or heard of this, but I need to look up that. It sounds kind of cool. It's also the only mission, like I mentioned earlier in the series, where you fight Seraphs and Space Banshees. So that's kind of it. I mean, the other random bits of trivia we've pretty much discussed as we talked through, getting into the turret and the Pelican, and I don't know, ship-to-ship combat. Everyone kind of knows this mission. It's a very well-known mission in the series.
Definitely very well-known and evolved. Yeah, I was going to say it's well-known and evolved because of me. Oh, all right.
Because Aaron's crazy theories.
I have my crazy theory, and I stick with it until they write it.
Is he alive? Could he be alive?
Okay.
Is that what it is?
Yes, this is my get-out clause. No, this is my get-out clause, and I think they could write him back in. I think George could be written in alive again. So, like I said, the whole basic gist of this plan is to put a slipspace drive in the carrier sideways and slipspace out part of the ship without the rest of the ship, essentially chopping it in half, which is what Kat talks about with the start with the colony ship where the drive was mounted incorrectly and the drive left without the rest of the ship and took part of it. So I think if anyone's going to survive a slipspace entry and re-entry with only half a ship in a suit of armor, it's going to be a Spartan-II. I think they've done it in the past. I'm pretty sure in one of the books it's written about.
I think they have.
I think Chief and a few others jump out of a ship in a Pelican at slipspace.
I want to say it's in Reach.
No.
In the book.
In the book. It could be in the
First
book.
Strike.
Yeah, it could be that one.
I think it is. One of them is that definitely like blue team and red team, I'm pretty sure, have to like bail from like high orbit and they pretty much lock their armor and like destroy themselves.
They do. Yeah, they do that. They land from orbit, but they actually exit a UNSC ship while in slipspace, and I think they're in like a Pelican, and they transition back to normal
that's First
space.
Strike.
So like
that's why when they're hijacking Jubilant something or other, I can't remember how to pronounce it. It's or Hierophant. Remember that, the crazy ship, they hijack a ship in First Strike. Spoilers for First Strike.
So like
crazy slipspace stuff.
Yeah, so like my hope in life has always been that someday someone's just going to write a Halo novel that's just going to be George dropping out of the sky over a planet somewhere, and that he'll reappear again. Like I know they call it a slipspace bomb, but it's not a bomb in the fact that the ship explodes. George just left with like the Corvette. Also, if it jumped out the way it did, the Corvette in theory should still be in one piece, because the slipspace drive took a much bigger lump of the carrier with it.
Oh, that's
so.
Well, he still has the Pelican technically.
I think the Pelican's damaged. I don't think he could fly the Pelican out. I think he says something during one of the cutscenes at the end about how the gimbal's destroyed as well as the timer. Because I think the Pelican was going to be their evac. I think they were going to like leave the slipspace core in the hangar bay and then fly away. But that's why he says like the only way out now is the parachute or whatever it is.
I mean, I'm okay with George being alive. I just don't think it's actually going to happen.
No, it's one of those.
I don't know what happens. I mean, if you have detonated slipspace drive with no coordinates, what does it actually do? I mean, does it just take you to that dimension?
That's the thing I wondered, is do you just float around slipspace for a while until you drop back out of it? But seeing as how, like,
I don't know,
there's certain tendencies in Halo that things can go certain places, kind of like, I don't want to give too many spoilers for future games, but people have been known to come out of slipspace prematurely and end up in convenient locations in half of a ship.
Mm-hmm.
That may have happened before. Yeah, so like, if you were ever going to write sort of slightly forerunner intervening magic in slipspace, I think you could do it. And like I said, I think he's just the best developed character, so if I was ever going to like go out on a limb to want anyone written back into a game, it's George.
They could do it. So, they could do it based off of what you just described. So.
I think so. You just have to fudge it ever so slightly, and considering some of the fudging that goes on with the timeline between this and the novel, what's a little more fudge between friends?
Oh God.
Well
Sounds
said.
disgusting.
Well said.
All right, that will do it. That will do it for our debriefing of Halo's Reach. Or Halo Reach is the longest night of solace.
The longest night.
And that's the longest episode I think that we've had too.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Coincidentally, it's probably one of our longest episodes.
It's my fault.
On the next episode, we will be covering the next mission, which is Exodus in Halo Reach. So send us your thoughts at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved. That'll do it for us. Evolved.
Evolved.
Okay, evolved.
Okay.